Hey guys, I'm Jax and this is my spoiler review for The Boys Season 3 episodes 1 to 3. So The Boys is back and it's bigger and bolder and bloodier than ever and it's just incredibly great. Like, I love this series and this season is just better in every way. It's so funny, it's just so laugh out loud in its crazy satirical take of superheroes. I love this insane world that this show has built around these superheroes, and you know, they're all corporatized and they're all media like focused, and you know, their social media is like such a huge aspect. They've got all these PR teams and all of this stuff. The show is always at its best when it's satirizing all of these big high concepts of superheroes in the media and all that stuff, and then also when it's just doing superhero stuff but going, but it's gory. Oh, you remember that Ant-Man meme where Ant-Man should have gone up Thanos' butt and everyone's like, that would have solved Endgame, Avengers Endgame, if he'd just gone up Thanos' butt. Well, how about we do it? But then the boys is like, oh, up his butt, that's tame, that's PG. How about he goes right up in his dick and he's just all like touching the inside of his dick as a little sex pest Ant-Man creature, little sex deviant Ant-Man. A horrific way to start the season. Now, I am all on board with gory, overly sexual, crazy, hyper-realistic, there's crazy stuff going on. That's pretty much the boys' MO. Like, this ain't your grandpapa's superhero, you know, like, it's what if Superman, but he was super evil. He was just a crazy man. But it's also like, what if all the superheroes in every way were just completely, just crazy. Very violent, very sexual, combining the both with sexual violence and stuff. Like, we had the woman and she's getting eaten now and she's like, oh, I'm having a great time, and then she crushes the guy's head and explodes into mushy mush. Also, this show is just like 95% of the violence is just people exploding into giant pieces of mush. Just it's so horrific. Like, I don't know how they still manage. I think it's because it's not happening so often that it's still somehow shocking, even though so much of the violence is just people ripping apart and exploding into gore. But it's so visceral. It's so powerful in its just kind of horrifying imagery. I am never not shocked by any single piece of violence in the show. It is incredible how much I am laughing at like these insane moments with these superheroes and these insane things, then just filled with so much dread with any scene with Homelander, then filled with a combination of both with all of the violence. It is so disgusting, so horrifying, but kind of ridiculous and funny because it's so extreme. And like the head exploding lady, she kind of scares me the most just because her power feels so... It's way too OP. Like, it freaks me out how just like OP she is. Like, she can just blow up your body, and now we find out any part of your body, so it's not just heads, so it's not specific to that. She can just blow up your dick if she wants. She can blow up each finger at a time. Like, it's just a terrifying thing, but mostly all of the violence and gore is just so extreme. It's crazy. This is a horrifying show, and I don't know how I can laugh at it so much. It's a crazy balance this show finds, and it's writing it perfectly for me. I can understand if someone watched this and went, it's too much. There's a little Ant-Man, he goes into a dick, then he coughs and explodes and goes all big, and it's too gory, it's too much. I can understand how someone would kind of feel that way, but I also think those people haven't continued watching. They haven't got to season 3, because there's lots of that in the first 2 seasons. So I think now we kind of know we know what to expect. We know what we're kind of in for with The Boys. But even still, I don't think... the start of this season, like, I can't get over little Ant-Man, little sex deviant termite boy running into a dick, and it was too much. Like, it's just, I've never felt so like sick but laughing, but it's a lot to handle. I've never kind of wanted my giant TV at home to be smaller. Like, I was like, should I just pause this and watch it on my phone? Like, this giant dick with this little man who's, you know, running in, it's a lot. Like, I've seen True Blood. I've seen Sam turn into a fly, go into someone's mouth, and explode out, and he's all naked, he's all like, oh, I'm covered in gore and viscous, and he's like, oh. But the way The Boys does it, it's just so graphic, it's so sexualized, it's so heightened, and I think the way that they position, like in the world, like the you and me, the everyman, they see these heroes as gods. You know, it's like the Tom Cruise, but he has superpowers. Like, it's like Chris Hemsworth, but Chris Hemsworth is Thor in this world. So we all look up at them, we're all like, ah. But then behind closed doors, they're all sexual deviants, and they're murderers, and they're monsters, and they're racists, and they're this and that, and I don't know, it creates this really intense vibe where, like, you know, like in that Ant-Man scene, he's having sex with a little Barbie doll and everyone's cheering. They're like, we love little sex deviant Ant-Man, hoo hoo hoo. But in the other room, crawls into a man's dick and then explodes by accident because he coughs. He doesn't mean to be a monster, but he still killed that man, and it's just... Oh, honestly, I've got to get past that scene because there's 3 other episodes to talk about, but it really just shook me to my core and reminded me how great The Boys can be at telling a certain story about superheroes. Finally, we get the theatrical release of Dawn of the Seven, which is very obviously a pun and, you know, a joke and kind of a take on the whole Justice League, Zack Snyder, that whole thing, and it's very on the nose. The show is not very subtle at times, but I think it does a great job at kind of utilizing all these aspects to make this show feel kind of like surprisingly real, even though it's so farcical and insane and bloody and horrific. Like, it really makes me go, if we had superheroes, like, if Harry Styles, like, there's a character this season, there's essentially Harry Styles, but if he was a superhero, and it feels legit what it would be like. Like, how would he get onto the Justice League? How would he get onto the Seven? He'd compete in American Idol or American Hero or whatever they call it. It's so completely farcical, but in a way that I feel like, you know, it's so satirical and silly and ridiculous, but part of me is just like, it feels so real. Like, it feels so painfully real. The way these superheroes, these egomaniacs with these crazy abilities that are just so far-fetched and so insane, of course we would all flock to them. Of course our superhero movies would star the superheroes. And the start of this season has a rewriting of history where Stormfront is suddenly the villain of Dawn of the Seven. And that whole scene was amazing. It was just so great. I think it's like Charlize Theron is suddenly playing Stormfront and she's all like, oh, you're in my heart, Homelander, but the Third Reich is in my soul. It's just like, so bad, so great, so just... incredibly funny. I honestly can't get enough of just this insane, satirical, hyper-realistic world of just like crazy corporatization of superheroes. So Homelander. Anthony Starr as Homelander is just, it's a joy to watch. Every single scene is just, there is just this underlining horror and tension and just dread. The dread, like every scene that finishes and it cuts to like away from Homelander, I almost audibly just go, God, he's so scary, man. He's so scary. He's so unnerving. It's such an unpleasant performance. I think it all gets summed up, and it was in the trailer. It was in that first scene in the first episode where all the screens start playing up. He's like, I just gotta say, I've got a heart. I'm just like every man. I fell in love with the wrong girl. I just want everyone to see the real Homelander. And then just like that acting, that twitch of like, oh, but we don't, like, the audience and, like, the general public in this universe, they don't want to know the real Homelander, and it's terrifying. It's such an exciting performance. I really don't know when he's going to snap. I love the idea of just, at some point, he's going to snap. At some point, it's all going to come crumbling down, and we get, like, the first kind of stepping stone of that kind of beginning to happen, because at the end of last season, Starlight, Maeve, Mrs. Wonder Woman, they're all just like, hey, we've got all this dirt on you, Homelander, you can't do a thing. And he's like, okay, I will take a break for a season, for like, you know, in between a season, I'll take a break for a year, but now the season's back and we're filming, I'm gonna snap. And that first stepping stone happens when Starlight's like, I'll do the plane thing. I'll do the plane thing. And he's like, you do the plane thing. You do the plane thing, Starlight. And I thought he was going to be like, I'll grab Huey. I'll grab his fingers. I'll tear them apart. I'll rip his skin inside out and I'll make him still alive and I'll dangle all that like a skeleton and then I'll like beat his, you know, just real gross weird stuff with Huey. But no, none of that. He's just like, Pentagon, White House, infrastructure of America, the internet. Don't get rid of the internet, Homelander. We need the internet to watch The Boys and porn and stuff, you know? Gee, God, imagine the world without the internet. Just the darkest timeline. But I love this because at the end of the last season, it was kind of like, okay, is Homelander going to be kind of neutered in kind of a way where it's like, I guess it kind of puts it back to the status quo in a way, and he knows that everyone hates him, but he can't like act on them. But I love the fact that it's like this interesting kind of like, you know, seesawing kind of thing with Starlight and Homelander this season in these first 3 episodes. And Starlight, she's got, you know, everyone loves her because, you know, she didn't date a Nazi and she's just kind of awesome and nice and beautiful and has got powers and she seems friendly and cool and all that kind of stuff. So people kind of are vibing good with her because of course they are. And her percentages and like, you know, her stock prices and I don't know, her likes and stuff, they're all up and good and stuff. All the social media clicks are all like big yays. I feel like I'm showing my age with just everything I said for the last like minute there. Just, oh boy. But the public love her, so she becomes co-captain of the Seven, and I just love this seesawing of her being like, I won't sing this song. I'm not a sex doll. I'm part of the Seven, and I'm a, you know, all these things. And he's like, no. And just that kind of, I don't know, that tension between them as they go back and forth of like, who's trying to kind of put the one up on each other. Really exciting stuff. Really terrifying. Like, I know they're not going to kill Starlight, but I still have this, like, real horrible fear that Homelander will do something awful to her. Maybe something to her mom, to Huey. I don't know, it's really fascinating and terrifying. And I really like that boy band Harry Styles, Mr. Sonic Boom, Supersonic? It doesn't matter what his name is. I think Alex the Supersonic or something like that. It doesn't matter. But boy band's superhero guy from American Hero, and he's gonna get onto the Seven. I love the fact that she's like, you gotta get out. You don't want a part of this. And he's like, how can I leave you here in this situation? And suddenly we have a character who is ripe for absolutely getting completely killed by Homelander. But I just love that he's now here with Starlight and Homelander kind of coming into this whole situation. I find that a really interesting kind of pairing. He used to love her. She's obviously with Huey, but he has a reason to kind of be on her side and not side with Homelander no matter what he says, due to kind of past romances and all that kind of stuff. And I love that last scene where his glances and looks as Starlight kind of, you know, she hears that Homelander's like, they're dating now, and it's like all that kind of fake paparazzi social media kind of stuff to the public, and she does a big kiss. We get her putting her hands behind her back and clenching that fist just real hard. And I love that moment as a callback to the start of episode 3 where she's doing her little song and dances as a little kid. Also, that was just super gross to see Starlight doing that little dance as a kid. I've not really liked her mom, but seeing that scene with the mom's like, yeah. And she's doing the dance. It's like way too sexual, but she's like 12 or 10 or something. It's just really upsetting. Really did not like that scene. Hate her mom. Just, I hate all that pageantry stuff. And watching it and then seeing her clench that fist at the start, it's just like, oh boy. Like, we've heard about it, but when you hear about something, you're like, oh, that sucks. When you see it and like actually like see it with your eyeballs, deeply unpleasant. But then loved the callback to her being like, I don't like this situation, but I've got that acting face on, but behind closed doors, God, I'm tensing that fist. And I just love that kind of symmetry of like book ending the episode with that. Beautiful stuff. Just to be clear, I mean beautiful stuff in filmmaking wise. It's interesting and complex and interesting. Like in the show, horrendous and disgusting, and oh boy, this show gets horrendously dark. So what feels like about 3 years, I don't know if they took a break because of COVID or whatever the hell, but I feel like I've known that Jensen Ackles, Dean Winchester himself, was going to appear as Soldier Boy in season 3 of The Boys. I feel like I've known forever. It's just, I love Dean Winchester. I love Supernatural. I've watched way too many of the seasons. Not all of them, because there's so many, but I love him as an actor. He's so great in everything I've seen him in, even if it's something where he's not really that great. He's a great actor, and I think in this show, even in the very little stuff we've got so far, if anything, I'm kind of almost a little disappointed we haven't got more Soldier Boy so far, because I have a feeling he's going to kind of be the Stormfront of this season, that classic character in this type of show where he's like, I'm rocking up and I'm causing some chaos to the main cast and the main characters. But not like a overarching whole show big bad, but like kind of just that one season big bad. He kind of feels like he's going to be that for this season, especially when Mother's Milk. Also, Mother's Milk. I sometimes I forget, and then someone calls him Mother's Milk, and I'm just like, that's an insane nickname. That's crazy. He shouldn't have let that stick like that. I mean, you can't stop a nickname from sticking. And he probably tried to like stop it. And he's like, no, not Mother's Milk. And then it just, he actually he pushed the glue down and made it really stick. By forcing it to try and not stick, he actually cemented it closer. That's how all bad nicknames stick. What am I saying? Of course it is, but yeah. Crazy, ridiculous nickname. But we do get some horrific, just really tragic stuff, and I didn't have like a suspicion. I kind of knew because it's The Boys, and The Boys is, what if you're superheroes, but they're evil? And Soldier Boy, I'd heard that he's like Captain America. And they didn't even need to say, but evil. But I knew. I was like, oh, so he's Captain America, but he'll be evil. So, okay. And we get a very brief scene of him with a shield being like, bang, bang, shield, punchy punch. But he doesn't fling the shield. I really want to see him grab that shield and just fling it, and it chops someone's head off. That's what I want to see from evil Captain America. I'm a little afraid that, I don't know. I hope they don't make him so evil that he's not enjoyable to watch as a character. I think Stormfront kind of wrote an interesting line where she was very, very enjoyable as a character. Even when it was revealed she's a Nazi, she's like irredeemable, she was still kind of an interesting villain to kind of watch play, like, and interact with Homelander, and they didn't just make her like, I'm evil, Third Reich, rah, rah, rah. She kind of had an interesting play with Homelander as she tried to kind of groom him. So I'm hoping Soulja Boy doesn't kind of fall into that kind of generic villain kind of thing where he's like, I'm evil, I killed Mother's Milk's family, and I'm just a piece of shit. I would love kind of a second layer. And I'm not saying that The Boys is like The Boys, if anything, is really great at doing that. Like, The Deep is the best example. Like, he's an irredeemable character, and they've spent most of season 1 and 2, mostly season 2, just trying to redeem the irredeemable of The Deep. And this season as well, like, just... that scene in American Made, we have the two women and one of them is going to get that second spot. And Homelander's like, so, is it going to be this woman or this woman? Maybe the sex pest we got back here. Second chances, everyone? What do we think? Just so ridiculous, so intense. But just, as I said earlier, just that horrible kind of realism of like, oh, I feel like this could truly happen. Like, it's just... it's upsetting, but I'm just loving it. It's so well written. So Soulja Boy only gets like a couple of scenes, like maybe just one kind of scene extended, and we kind of cut back to it in this flashback scene. And there's a whole lot of talk of Soulja Boy, he's gonna be dead. Oh, Soulja Boy, how does this super gun of super immortality kill Soulja Boy? And I'm just like, it's crazy to me that Eric Kripke, the creator of the show, has brought back Dean Winchester, because he created Supernatural. He's bringing back Dean Winchester. This season, we've even got Bobby. Or if you haven't watched Supernatural and you're like, who's Bobby? He's the guy that sold Walter White the big gun in Breaking Bad. You probably remember him from that. Great actor. He's so good. And you've got Bobby as some kind of senator thing, but that's a fun little like... But I love that he's brought Dean back as this big role. They do keep saying, he's dead. Had this big gun, this super gun that could kill Homelander. How did it kill him? He's 100% not dead. I think maybe, I don't even know if the trailers have actually spoiled anything. I can't really remember. I feel like I half watched it and went, oh, I don't want anything to be spoiled. I feel like a lot kind of got ruined, but that actually was only from like maybe the first 2 episodes with Butcher with the superpowers and Huey being like, we can't do it my way, the good way. We've got to do it your way, Butcher. Which I'm glad we've kind of got past that kind of point. But regardless of what they show with Soulja Boy, as soon as you cast Dean Winchester, he's not dead. He's not just coming back for flashbacks. He's going to be a main character for the season. He's amazing. As soon as he arrives, he's cocky, he's sexy, he's charming, and he's like, oh, the ladies love these lines. And she's like, they don't. They're scared of you, but... I don't know. He's pretty sexy. I think they're charmed by him. But maybe not. He's probably going to turn out to be the worst man that ever lived. But yeah, I'm just so excited to see Dean Winchester, Jensen Ackles in The Boys. We haven't got enough of them yet, but I am mostly excited to see that kind of transpire, to see what Soulja Boy will do in this show. Is he going to like team up with Homelander? Is he going to kind of be a separate entity to it all? I'm really fascinated to how this is all going to play out. And whether or not there is a gun at all that can kill Supes, because presumably this gun doesn't exist because it didn't kill him, because he definitely isn't dead. Or he is dead and we only get him in the flashbacks and it's a big kind of like trick that cast Dean. But I think that would be really lame. But it's also crazy to me because Eric Kripke directed Supernatural, or created it, and like the first 2 seasons, the whole show is about them finding like a gun called the Cult to kill like the bad guy, like a magical gun that kills a demon. Like it's crazy that Dean is being introduced to this other show with a magical gun that can kill him. Just, I don't know, just a weird coincidence or intentional, like, nod, I guess? I don't know, just bizarre. So Mrs. Senator Lady or Congresswoman or whatever the hell she is, Mr. Politician Lady, Head Popper, Mrs. Head Popper, let's call her that. Nadia? Is it Nadia? Yes, Nadia. She's like, don't call me Nadia, that's what's from a past life. And then she pops his arms and heads and she pops it in a gruesomer way than just ripping his body apart. And then she's like, oh, but just, also pop his whole body. Just... damn, her power is so OP. It terrifies me. And this season starts off and like her and Huey, they're all like partnering up and little best friends and stuff. But the only characterization that we really get, apart from her kind of being friends with Huey, is that she likes to eat part of his bagel, even though he explicitly states, hey, don't have my bagel, that's for me. Like, if you go out and have lunch with someone, and you both buy a thing, and you both buy separate things, but you both kind of, mutually decided that you're both going to have kind of half of each other's, or like a bite or a bit of each other's thing, to mix it up, and to be like, well, I'm going to have this, but I'd love a bite of yours, and you're going to share that, you're going to both do that. But he's like, no, don't eat my bagel, I'm not going to have a bite of whatever the hell you're eating, maybe buy the bagel if you want to eat the bagel. But no, her whole characterization in this episode, the first episode, is just eat the bagel. Like, twice in this episode, that's like her whole thing, and I'm just like, I don't like her, she's very just rude. It's just not like a cool thing to do. Like, if we're both buying meals, just buy the bagel if you want the bagel. Don't eat my bagel. But if I'm happy for you to eat the bagel, you can eat the bagel. It just really made me not like her as a character. So, I'm pretty damn glad that we got rid of her being a hero, a nice guy. And almost immediately, Huey finds out she's head-popping crazy lady, and she's bloody Gus Fring's bloody daughter, you know what I'm saying. And I'm glad that we kind of went past that, and that wasn't kind of most of the season, and it wasn't drawn out again. And suddenly they're like, how do we stop Head Popper Lady, Gus Fring's daughter? Because that kind of felt a bit like, now we know she's Mrs. Head Popper and she's a villain. I'm not interested in her just pretending to be a good guy. Probably the biggest delight and surprise, like surprise and delight, both of them combined, was finding out that Stormfront hadn't been killed, or was, at least, like, because she hadn't been killed, and they're like, capture her and don't kill her, and she's all like burnt and she's lost all her limbs. She's Anakin Skywalkering this stuff, but instead of like Darth Vading her and getting up in a costume and stuff, she's just lying in a bed, just completely destroyed. Horrifying, terrifying. I find it very fascinating and interesting that Homelander's kind of using her almost, where he gets there and she's like jerking him off, and just horrendous. But she's still screaming stuff about like the Third Reich and Nazism and all this insane stuff, and he's like, oh, you're making it hard for me to get hard right now. Stop talking about the Third Reich. I'm good enough. And that whole scene was just utterly delightful in its insanity and just horror, just it's disgusting. Like, it's Homelander's so full on. His need to be loved, and then Stormfront like killing herself on his birthday. For one, like, as a character, it's kind of sad to lose her as a character, because I didn't know if she's gonna like maybe grow those body parts back. It's very unclear what each person's superpowers is. They haven't been very explicit exactly like how is she surviving. Is she slowly gonna like get better, or is she kind of gonna stay like that forever? So it doesn't matter now. She's killed herself, but her killing herself on his birthday, and then him having a classic Superman scene of being like, it's my birthday, I gotta make sure one person doesn't kill themselves this day. You're my one save for the day. Everyone gets one. And then we get the most boys scene of all, which is essentially Homelander, who is essentially Superman. Instead of talking someone off the ledge, he talks them off the ledge. Like, he's like, no, you're not getting away from this. You want to kill yourself? Have some follow through. Kill yourself. And it just so upsetting, so horrific, but it feels so fitting. It feels so perfect for this show, for Homelander, in that moment, to like be like, oh, I've got to do my duty for the media, for the shareholders, for the public, for blah, blah, blah. And he's going on and he's like, I've got to do my one save. I've got to save one person. I've got to do my Superman thing. But then when he hears like that she's killed herself on his birthday, he just snaps, and then he forces her as he kind of divulges maybe a bit too much, and he's like, well, she probably can't live. I've kind of shown my Homelander true vibes. Better get her to jump, and he just makes her jump. Just deeply upsetting. And the boys never shies away from just having big barrels of goo everywhere. Like, if she fell, I'm sure it would just kind of be like, and like horribly gruesome, but she just puffs into a big bag of blood and pus and mucus. It's so upsetting, but that leads to probably the best scene in these 3 episodes, well, at least I found it, was Homelander being like, he talks to the camera, he's like, I will not apologize. And he shows that truest sense of Homelander without killing someone. So without all the killing and the murder and stuff, he shows his true self, he's not sorry. And just the way he's standing up for himself and the way he projects to the camera and to everybody, horrifying, just incredible, like, from just like to see the character kind of take this like, you can't go back from this kind of step, and then seeing that one character who I think is dating Mother's Milk's wife or ex-wife, I guess. I think it was him, or it was just a guy, and he's just kind of like a little spark in his eye go off. That really upset me. That was like, I don't know, fantastic filmmaking, really intense, really exciting and terrifying to see Homelander kind of go in this direction. Because I kind of felt like at the end of season 2, maybe he'd be a bit stagnant for a little while. But, I mean, I don't know. This season could end with him going full crazy and just exploding and ruining his reputation for everyone. And I really don't know when that's going to happen. I feel like my only kind of issue with that would be once that happens, how much more of the show would I want to watch? Like, I don't really feel like the show works without Homelander. I feel like he kind of, even though he's not the boys, he's not the main center of it, for me, he's the most interesting and engaging. And, you know, he's terrifying, he's scary, he's fascinating. He's got all the things that make this show worth watching. And his story is kind of what's keeping me most engaged. Even though I love, like, I love all the characters. Like, most of them, they're all really good. Mostly Irma. He's great. What's his name? Butcher. He's really, really good. Butcher and Homelander are the best two. But I feel like if it was just Butcher without her Homelander, what is the show then? So I'm a little afraid that they won't be able to kind of pull that final trigger with Homelander going crazy, evil Superman or whatever without the show kind of ending. But also maybe the show would work if it is only like 4 seasons and it doesn't kind of drag on to be 6, 7, 8 seasons. But yeah, just an amazing first 3 episodes. So funny, so terrifying, so just insane. It's just, it's so good to be back in the world of The Boys! Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of the first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 3.